Hi everyone, and welcome to my weekly astrological predictions for the week of August 26, 2019. I will recap previous week's predictions and what had happened in a separate video. For now, let's dive directly into the predictions. So the predictions that will be in due basically for this entire week and will continue for some, weeks, if not months to come, are long-term predictions that primarily focus on the transits of Saturn and Pluto through the Capricorn, and those usually coincide with changes in large government structures, some geopolitical shifts, basically maybe passing away of leaders who have been long-standing, just basically changes in the power, as well as major earthquakes, some sort of disasters, especially those that involve collapses of the large buildings, or maybe beginning of some really large construction projects. So really mass scale, changes. And this week we will basically expect increased focus on some of these events on, let's see which dates that I have here highlighted, August 30th through September 1st. This influence will continue to be fairly strong through September, and in the early September, the dates to note would be September 2nd and 8th. Another long-term, long-standing, prediction that I have that is indeed long-term and will continue to intensify this week as we're in the end of August and will actually especially peak in September, is the square between Neptune in Pisces and Jupiter in Sagittarius. And these usually, this kind of a aspect usually coincides with increased sort of problems with, wet weather, floods, torrential rains, problems with shipments that occur over the water, problems with, travel internationally, and or not necessarily problems, but just abundance of news that relate to immigration, some sort of new laws, judgments, legal, decisions, judges and lawyers in general, some sort of lawsuits that are either really important or involve important people or maybe get out of control. Like I said, the status, whether or not people are allowed to travel internationally, what is their legal status, short shipments that are especially going over the long distance and or bodies of water, or some, are subject to some sort of legal tariffs or legal, decisions. Should those be allowed through or not? There will be some both confusion. Neptune kind of brings confusion, and the square basically also brings either delays or problems. And the square between these two planets rather is going to be more and more precise, and will kind of reach its sort of peak precision in September, but we will start experiencing these issues already at the end of August. And this is something that has been actually ongoing from April of 2019. That was sort of the first hit when maybe some issues have started, maybe some problems with things associated with Neptune, such as oil, or like I said, problems with bodies of water, maybe shipping oil over the bodies of water, pollution, problems with, the oil spill, and therefore shipments cannot go through. Then there's another sort of a peak in June, and now September we'll see the final sort of resolution of some of these issues. So if there is some sort of a issue that was in the limbo, maybe it wasn't clear whether again people are allowed to travel certain places, then maybe it will be resolved. So a decision may be positive or negative, they can go through or not, or the shipments, but it will be, resolved finally. And or I believe there was some issue in April and then in June, I think something about contaminated oil deliveries from, Russia to Europe, something like that. And so there was some temporary closure of some pipelines. So something along those lines, there was some, contamination of water, and therefore, shipments can go through, or there are problems with oil delivery. Maybe it's accumulated in one place and can go through. Maybe I think it was something back in, again in June, if I recall correctly, in Canada, where there's so much oil being accumulated in the storage, but it couldn't go through. Of course, now we have tensions in the Middle East, and so it could be something along the lines of bad weather preventing the shipments from going through, or there are tensions in the areas where there's increased production of oil, and again, it may not be able to go through, or maybe again it could be just some legal decision, and again, because of legal decision, the shipment cannot be delivered, something along those lines. So this will definitely intensify this week and even more so next month, September. So let's see, and the particular dates to note, I basically do 26th and 27th of August, but really through mid-September, it will be quite, there should be quite a strong increase in the news on, again, oil, wet weather, shipments, maybe some illnesses that relate to like waterborne illnesses or contamination through the water. So let's see, another influence that is significant this week for the entire week is a strong focus on things like healthcare, natural treatments, livestock, and I had in my blog at pilstunka.com, I used words like even last week cattle, but I guess what I really meant is livestock in general, so any sort of animals as well as veterinary care, so basically healthcare in general for humans, but also care that is given to the animals, any sort of food supplements or medications, and basically there may be, and this is basically this was already started last week, will be on this week, and will continue also into September. And it was kind of hard to pick specific dates, but this week I guess would be the most important dates are August 27th through September 4th. I guess this covers a little bit next week as well. But really, again, through the entire week, month of September, really we will have this increased focus on these areas. So again, healthcare, care for the animals, or new treatments, as well as any sort of service professions like teachers, nurses, maybe some increased focus on government contracts, and or whether or not these people are provided for, do they receive proper, I guess, payments. I don't know if it will be something along the lines of people protesting, such as teachers protesting or even students protesting, demanding greater pay, or protest to help, some needy, I guess, populations where, again, there may be some service professions and there are, like, I don't know, firefighters, even police, maybe something to do with, like, are they getting paid adequately, or maybe, are they providing their services that are valuable? So something along the lines of, like, these service professions, are they providing the right services, and or are they valuable? Are they getting paid? Is somebody who needs social services being basically provided for properly? And again, this kind of includes healthcare. Is are people receiving proper healthcare? Another aspect that may come up, and actually did not mention in my blog, but it did occur to me that it may have to do with also things like accounting and bookkeeping. So there may be lots of reports maybe coming up again this week, as well as into September, where there will be a lot more detail about some additional data may come up, and may have to do with earnings and or how certain corporations are doing. So a lot of those details may affect the market and may provide sort of a lot more insight. So there will be a lot of this focus on really tiny kind of nuanced pieces of information, and there will be, I guess, a lot of just kind of discussing the same thing over again, or really trying to take and split, the hairs into multiple tiny little, I guess, micro pieces, and try to make sense out of those pieces of data, because they will be seen as kind of more important than before, or they will become better known than before, because again, maybe the corporations will be asked to provide that additional information, or financial institutions maybe voluntarily would come up with some sort of new service where they will provide that additional information, maybe track your money, or being able to have, again, more transparency into what the institutions are doing with your money, something like that. And so that will be either being done voluntarily or, again, under some pressure. But either way, I think there will be more of that kind of a focus on background sort of accounting, and or reports will come out where that additional information may be more kind of available than before. So let's see, another prediction that's long-standing for China specifically is that again, it's been on for, I guess, some months, and it will continue on for months, that the country is sort of going through some transformation where there may be undergoing some changes in certain areas, specifically like pharmaceuticals, healthcare, oil, as well as long distance transportation, especially internationally, and or over water or railroad, expansion and international like agreements or influence internationally, as well as tackling things like pollution, deception, secrets, and like I said already, Navy. So these areas are currently being strongly aspected in China's chart, and again they're undergoing some changes, and the changes could be where old approach is completely sort of being basically no longer applies, and the country decides to come up with a new approach, maybe like the approach of dealing with pollution, because things are just so bad, like you have to completely, cut off some old ways and just start new, because the old ways will basically kill you. Or vice versa, there may be just some pressure externally where basically there's an ultimatum and the old ways just no longer do, and the country must come up with a new way of doing something. So for example, one of the areas is recycling. So maybe, I think they put the stop, refused, I guess, recycle certain things, and so basically to, I guess, decrease pollution in some way, and or maybe dealing with oil some way that was not dealt before, increasing, influence, especially over like the bodies of water. And that's a slow influence that will be kind of in for some time, but that's sort of a background influence this week. The strongest dates for that are August 26th through 27th. So additionally, for China and as well as for the US, there are certain parts of those two countries' horoscopes that actually are aspected at the same time and have somewhat similar, I guess, potential manifestations. And that's the influence that's in from about August 19th through November 5th, 2019. And particularly, I guess, the dates to look for the US as mid-September 16th through 18th, and then October 1st through 5th, and 21st through 24th. And for China, the end of August 26th through the 29th, as well as again mid or to late October, I guess, mid to late September, so 17th through 18th of September, as well as September 22nd, and similar dates as for US in October, so October 5th through 8th, 17th through 20th, and 24th through 27th. So during those days, both countries may experience additional probability of some events where they may be involved in conflicts or power struggles with their partners, or I guess, when basically discussing various contracts and agreements. There may also be some, for China, increased probability of like earthquakes or some major disasters. For US, there's increased probability of having some important major announcements about its leaders, especially on October 2nd. And for US, the focus may be, in addition to, like I said, conflicts, potentially tensions in discussions with their partners, focus may be on kind of being a leader in the world in some area, potentially in the finance industry and or banks somehow, and financial institutions may be kind of more in the news, especially their earnings, investments, stocks, rates, currencies, sort of all these vehicles, for making money, and or being a leader, I guess, in those areas on the world arena will be more prominently featured in the news. And another strong topic against during this longer period, end of August through early November, would be any sort of legal issues, including immigration, lawyers, judges, long distance travel, shipments, I guess international like tariffs and things like that. And especially October 2nd for the US, there may be some important announcements along those lines. For China, like I said, similarly as for the US, this period may see increased kind of, again, in addition to already what's happening, increased tensions in or conflicts or power struggles that involve various agreements. But also there's increased probability of various earthquakes, accidents, disasters. Again, focus on the banks and financial industry. So again, stocks, rates, currencies. There may be some new initiatives announced in the financial sector, new deals, and or new controls and regulations, especially from the government, or some readjustments may be announced. And those may be done under some pressure to basically execute more control, limit something like limit losses, maybe limit number of partners, limit number of destinations where somebody can travel or where shipments can go. And that again will be done either under external pressure or internally, basically to execute kind of a greater control on our situation and to cut losses, reduce pollution, reduce sort of leakage of things through these strange unknown sources, that cannot be quite pinpointed. So that's kind of a tightening of control may be happening, and or literally there could be some erosion, water erosion, rather soil erosion from water, and there may be as a consequence some major project undertaken that will involve some sort of major, again, structure or building of something, or removal of some building to try to stop that. So maybe like a dam or road or something like that. And so the project can either be literally or figuratively be either done in secrecy or underground, or involve ground and or involve government. And it could be something that's done either, like I said, in secrecy, literally underground, or via like indirect or even illegal means. So again, this may involve either like finance or something, or it could be literally just dealing with some physical structures that maybe there's water erosion and they need to be basically rebuilt. So finally, moving on to the actual individual days of the week. On Monday, the 26th of August, I think the market will go up. I'm actually recording it on Monday. I have posted my predictions the day before on Sunday. And I do see that the market did go up on Monday. For Monday, I predicted increased focus on finance, healthcare, veterinary care, livestock, service industries, and governmental contracts, especially those involving weapons, military, firefighting, or police. So anything that has to do with defense, I guess, and or weapons. There may also be kind of more stronger, I guess, desire for risk taking in sort of among investors, and or making some risky bets, risky moves, some sort of sudden developments or turnabouts involving, I guess, financial industry. Investors may be more inclined to gamble than usual, and or invest money in something that is not necessarily tangible, money, but rather something that's a digital solution, maybe cryptocurrencies, or maybe investing in bank stocks, but banks that are more perceived to be more high tech, or some high tech solutions that are offered out there, instead of physical gold, into like some associated ETFs or something like that. There may also be increased news, and again, I haven't followed up the news just yet, so I'm not sure if it had or hadn't come through, but there may be increased news about things like cybersecurity, again, especially involving finance or AI, or basically looking for some high-tech solutions that specifically are meant to improve like banking and financial institutions. And or there may be some increased news about ability or some services that allow to track financial transactions more clearly, or some improvement in financial transparency. So another influence that's good for August 23rd through 26th is increased focus on governmental services and or contracts, especially where it comes to providing healthcare, support for the poor or needy sort of classes in society, teachers, nurses, service staff of any sort, like I said, police, male, persons, and basically anybody who's like helping society sort of function, and they're doing it, they're not necessarily the highest paid staff, but they're helping and making things move and provide, protection and or teaching, or etc. And so there may be some news during those dates. So like I said, August 23rd or 26th, that maybe there is talk about increasing payments or the pay raises for those folks, and or people from those industries or businesses from those industries receiving additional governmental contracts, or having to sort of provide even additional services beyond what they already have, or maybe It doesn't talk about kind of those businesses being important, again, either for functioning of the society or them needing to receive kind of more money, more help in order for them to be able to provide the services. Also, for August 25th or 27th, there may be increased news about banks, financial institutions, rates, earnings, and again, this may have this flavor of kind of a either new innovative digital sort of solutions, and or basically those deals being risky. So like, I don't know, risky loans, or if there's like a purchase by one, acquisition from by a company of some other company that's perceived to be a risky deal. And again, maybe this new small company is offering some sort of new cool digital solution of some sort, and this more established, say bank or some financial institutions acquiring them to be able to do that, to use that service, but it may be seen that's really either cutting edge and cool, or maybe perhaps too risky and kind of not necessarily what traditionally is done, especially among financial organizations. And it could be just news about surprising sources of funding, or surprising deals, or surprising details may be revealed about some famous people's financial, standing or their earnings. And again, some of these financial details may be coming out either through some accounting firms, or surprisingly discovered. Maybe there's a hack, some digital, data mining or something like that occurs, and some information is coming through. Or again, this could be something that's a new service is provided voluntarily, and in order to obtain kind of interest more customers. And so, like I said, there may be a field this week with investors wanting to kind of be more adventurous and engage more in sort of more risky, investments, and because they will feel like it's a good deal for somehow, and or it's a good time to lock a good rate, or a good time to buy something. Again, either financial, like stocks of financial institutions perhaps, or just because something is truly discounted and they feel like they can make quick money off of it. So August 26th or 28th, there may also be some surprising news that relate to guns, weapons, athletes, sports teams, and or things like fires or accidents. And those may be, again, the weapons and or accidents may be related to like airplanes, anything that's flying, basically flying devices, some rockets, drones, and or even weapons that are, again, somehow fly through the air and then explode or burn. So we may hear about either these actual objects or businesses that perhaps sell them or produce them. And like I said, it could be involving just sports and athletes. We may hear about increased earnings in those industries, or maybe like individual athletes is sign up with a really nice sum of money. Earnings of folks and or companies in those industries may increase, and or value of such products may increase. Tuesday, I think the market may possibly go down. I'm only about 55% sure, so just a very slight probability of it going down. August 27th through the 29th, I think there may be increased focus on various like high-tech solutions, and/or solutions that provide power, supply, to say, just I guess anybody else, really just power companies, I guess, and/or companies that are dealing with like inventing methods to either care for livestock, or perhaps some innovative, treatments specifically that are related to both healthcare but also veterinary care, or maybe something that along the lines of, again, using electricity to maybe provide electricity or high-tech technology like robots or something like that, or new inventions to care for, say, livestock, or to produce food, and or vice versa, or even treat, again, humans and or livestock, or pets in general, or vice versa, something that maybe you use like livestock, or the way the food is grown, and that is used to produce more electricity or cut costs on electricity or something like that. So it could be something along the lines of like using robots to help, produce food, or robots to perform surgeries, or some nano devices to diagnose illnesses. Again, could be for humans, could be for animals, maybe using electric shock to somehow provide care, treat animals, or using byproducts from like farming, especially farms that specifically not just grow produce, but like have animals, livestock to produce electricity. I'm not sure, maybe it's like, using their manure or something like that to produce methane and use that. So it's already done, but there may be more news along those lines of using technology with treating diseases and or producing, helping, I guess, with farming, but specifically related to, again, animals and or treating them, and or if there are some diseases that specifically involve animals, there are maybe some new advanced technological solutions applied to kind of taking care of that. So again, using even some sort of cool space solutions, maybe like flying animals into space, or using space lab to grow foods or test food, something like that. Using also maybe wearable technology or like clothes to generate electricity. So some sort of cool, innovative things that involve multiple domains, again, especially related to like healthcare, farming, and like super high-end technology like robotics, AI, etc. So for Tuesday, the 27th of August, there may also be increased news specifically for the US that involve increased focus on banks, financial institutions, especially in the afternoon, specifically of Tuesday. We may hear about slight concerns about safety of like maybe assets of the banks, or are there enough savings? Basically, or news just may involve generally like rates, loans, debt, assets, I guess, may relate to real estate. So slight concerns, which is, I guess, in part I gave it more of a high probability of the market going down. For Wednesday, August the 28th, I think there's again very slight 55% chance probability of it going up. So things look slightly better. For August 29th, Thursday, I think the market will continue to go up. Again, 55 to 60% chance, so things look slightly better than on Wednesday. On August 30th, Friday, I think that it will be a very busy day with a lot of news, and the market may actually go down about 60% chance. And it will, regardless of the direction, will likely see stronger than usual moves, just because there will be a lot of, most likely, some sort of news, changes, unexpected, developments, and or there may be some detailed reports coming up, like I said, especially financial, bookkeeping, accounting, something along those lines may come up specifically on Friday and affect trading. And especially, like I said, all week, but especially on Friday, there will be strong focus on, again, finance, healthcare, veterinary care, livestock, any sort of service industries, governmental contracts, as well as weapons or sports. We may hear about some individuals, such as like some macho athlete or fighter, racer, somebody who's like tough, macho, kind of likes to take risks, and they may be prominently featured in the news. Possibly the issue could relate to their health or safety, like maybe they're doing something risky, and then they ended up being in an unsafe situation, and maybe their health suffers. Or maybe there just generally may be increased news about safety of like guns, weapons, and or athletes. So basically things that combine, or maybe safety of, say, firefighters, or how to prevent fires. So something along the lines of these kind of situations that involve, I guess, risky, literally physically risky situations, and how to basically improve safety around those. And or there may be just also news about situations that involve accidents, fires, shootouts, and or even safety to like health of humans, but also livestock may be somehow impaired. So maybe there's like news of a major fire that involves some sort of farm where they have livestock, or news about, again, having this really new, innovative, cool way of helping animals that, again, are livestock, and maybe they have some disease that involves like this heating of the body, or some fever or something that has to do with like infection, and there's a news about being able to help them in some cool, innovative way. So let's see, as well, or through some alternative health care approaches. And or lastly, there may be some news about like safety of some specific drugs that relate to like eating, basically food, or dieting, digestion, like heartburn. So something along those lines. There may be increased news about those kind of drugs. Again, that's Friday, August 30th. So quick preview of the next week, just because one Monday is going to be a holiday in the US where markets will be closed, but it may not be in other countries, of course. But then September, I guess 2nd, 3rd especially, but also the 4th, and really the entire week, month of September will look quite intense, but especially the 2nd and 3rd, Monday, Tuesday, we'll see really strong influence. And there may be many important announcements coming up where for US, I think the market may go down on Tuesday the 3rd, and or at the very minimum there may be a strong sort of a reversal in the markets, either on the 3rd and or from the 3rd to the 4th, or where it's open from the 2nd to the 3rd. So something really strong may come up even over the weekend and or early in the week, say on Monday, and then affects markets strongly on Tuesday when they open in the US. And so there may be some upsetting news again related to the healthcare, or some details coming up about some financial reportings, and or some accounting or some bookkeeping, and or problems with, I guess, livestock, and or problems with governmental contracts, or concerns about those, or concerns about the service industry, such as maybe their teachers are protesting and or students are protesting, some education, domain, and or there may be problems relating to like transportation, so perhaps some increased number of motor vehicle accidents, or maybe some upsetting news about like cars or manufacturers of cars, and or there may also be upsetting news about military personnel or athletes, as I said, about either individuals that are like some famous athletes, but also in general, like improving safety and health of, say, athletes or people who are putting their lives at risk, like such as military, especially as they communicate. Maybe somebody is saying something that is upsetting, and then maybe they suffer because of that. Like literally somebody's upset and threatens to hurt them, and so there's a conversation about in the news how to protect them. Or perhaps an athlete or somebody who's like a famous at the military athlete, somebody who's already like taking risks, but they're now maybe doing something more risky, such as they're driving really fast, and so they get in some sort of accident, and their health, is in the news. So let's see. So yeah, or somebody who's again a famous person who's especially either is known for being like athlete or in the military, or is somebody who's just like macho and a risk taker. They come up and they say something fairly aggressively in an outspoken way, and then they're threatened or even get hurt of it. So there may be just this kind of a tone of aggressive communication, and it may involve either someone's health or healthcare in general, and or like I said, healthcare of like animals. So let's see, and then just something to touch on, to not make it super long, is that September will see even more kind of tense times. In my blog at listen.com, I have several specific dates mentioned. Basically, the entire month looks pretty important, and the main themes would be that there may be increased focus on oil, wet weather, as well as there might be increased probability of like earthquakes and accidents. So it could be something along the lines of like, we have a hurricane season coming up in the US, and there's some potentially first hurricane of the season is forming somewhere out there far away. And so it may be that, the hurricane hits and it affects the production of oil or shipments over the bodies of water in general, and or there's pollution of water, and or like I said, there may be some sort of a accident that involves an underground location, because again there's water erosion, or maybe too much water and the dam is compromised. Something along the lines of like accidents, possibly involving nuclear power plants, and or locations where some sort of a store, I guess the byproducts of, say, nuclear power production. So things that basically are not very pretty and may be hidden, but may either the problems kind of may seep out again. Perhaps something gets flooded and that yucky stuff seeps through the soil. So all of that kind of is going to be intensifying in specifically September, and or for those who are specifically full of oil, that there may be increased potentially oil, I guess, prices, just because there'll be some sort of imbalance where shipments are stopped, they can't get through, be it because of weather or some legal issues or some international conflicts or some laws that are imposed internationally. So maybe accumulation in one area and the storage is full, but it cannot be shipped, or production is stopped because of the weather. So there will be definitely very important focus on that, as well as things that have to do again with like religious places, international travel and shipments, legal issues, international communication, and sort of laws. All of that will be quite prominently featured in September. So something interesting to look forward to. And I guess that's it for me for this week, and I'll see you guys later. Have fun. Bye.